Hi everyone and welcome to round 6, game 2 of the Star City Games Invitational Legacy Qualifier in Doncaster. Matt Light on the left is 1-0 up against Bart Tomiczek, who's playing Jund. What would you expect out of the sideboarding from these two decks, Lee?
The Esper Blade deck has got a lot of one-offs in the sideboard that you can just switch in and out when you please, and it's basically down to player preference what they use. The Jund deck, if it's got it in the sideboard, will probably be bringing in Chains of Mephistopheles to stop Matt's deck drawing the cards off Brainstorm and things, and probably some more Abrupt Decays, maybe an Ancient Grudge from Tom.
Okay, unfortunately for Bart, I believe he's taken a mulligan in this game, so he has a card down. Do you think Matt can take huge advantage of that, or do you think that Bart will be able to come back quicker than...
The Esper Blade's looking to eke out as much virtual or real card advantage as it can, and being one card down is really painful against them.
Okay, so Matt again on basic land here. Does the Esper Stoneblade deck just run one of each basic, or do you sometimes run 2 islands in it?
I think it runs 2 islands, 1 plains, 1 swamp, because then it can cast most of its spells off just basics.
Most importantly, Jace.
Yeah, most importantly, Jace. I mean, it's one of the things you need to consider when you're building a deck for the format, is how bad am I against Wasteland?
Okay, decent start for Bart there. Turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, turn 2 Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I mean, we don't know whether his mulligan was an aggressive mulligan to find, like, the goods, so to speak, so he can pressure the deck early.
Yep. Matt fairly solidly going for the basic there, and that's Relic of Progenitus from Matt. So we have potentially Tarmogoyf suffering shrinkage at this point.
Yeah, it's also a very good way of fighting the Deathrite Shamans, because if they do target something in your graveyard, you can relic yourself and then remove the card before the Deathrite trigger resolves, or ability, sorry, not trigger.
Interesting point that Deathrite Shaman is one of the very few mana abilities that can actually be fizzled.
Yep, that is one of the drawbacks of the card. The only one, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, the words Deathrite Shaman and drawback are not very usually used.
Interesting enough, the drawback usually comes up when it's dueling Deathrite Shamans.
And that's Spell Pierce from Matt on the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, he's just looking to protect his own. He doesn't want to. He's happy to 1 for 1. Like, until he lands a Jace.
At this point, Bart's just going to pay for the Spell Pierce, it looks like, using Deathrite Shaman and while the land's in his bin. What does Matt have in hand? Another Spell Pierce, Stoneforge Mystic, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and a couple of lands.
Yeah, I think Matt was quite happy for that to happen, because he can really manage the graveyards a lot better now with that relic. Now he's removed that land. I mean, ideally he obviously wanted Bart to miss that and him to get away with a free Spell Pierce when he had 2 mana up.
Also
but he has wasted the rest of his turn basically as well.
Also interesting that Matt didn't cast a Stoneforge Mystic there despite having the opportunity to on turn 2.
Well, the Esper Stormblade list, unlike the original Stormblade list where it used to just jam a Stoneforge as quick as possible, you're looking to play that as maybe your last card you play, where your opponent has limited resources to interact with it, and then it should just take over the game from there.
And we're seeing exactly what you said there. Bart did make Matt discard his Jace the Mind Sculptor, but Matt used his Relic of Progenitus to remove it from the graveyard, so to shrink Tarmogoyf down a little bit and make it a bit more manageable.
Yeah, the other reason Matt wouldn't have played his Stoneforge on turn 2 is because he wanted to lead that Spell Pierce up, he wanted to cast a Relic, but also he didn't want to cast it and then have his equipment removed by a timely discard spell from Bart.
Okay. It's just something that maybe wouldn't appear that obvious to someone who's...
Yeah, it's in Legacy, especially with Stoneforge Mystic, there's a lot of interesting interactions. Because the Stoneforge is tapped to put equipment into play. He's quite vulnerable to speed interaction. Like, for instance, if Matt was playing a blue deck against a blue deck, he could Vendilion Clique you in response and actually take the equipment from Matt's hand.
So, speaking of timely discard, that was a duress from Bart taking the Batter Skull that Matt had just searched for with the Stoneforge Mystic. So, things are looking okay here for Bart. He's got in there with a bit of discard and he's got his Tarmogoyf going, but obviously that Relic of Progenitus is going to stop the Tarmogoyf going completely out of control.
Yep, Matt's just letting him remove that land from his graveyard, not choosing to activate the relic. I mean, Bart's Jund deck is doing what the Jund deck should be doing. It's making threats, disrupting his opponent, and Matt's just basically trying to get to the little bit of the later game.
That's Abrupt Decay on the Stoneforge Mystic. Tarmogoyf coming in again. Matt's going to remove his Stoneforge Mystic just to shrink the Tarmogoyf down again. Still a 4-5 even though he's removed his Stoneforge Mystic.
And a Jace because of that, and it's still a 4-5.
So
the reason he hasn't removed that Batter Skull is perhaps one of his lands is an Academy Ruins. So he's looking to get that back very soon.
Yeah, I think one of his lands that we saw in his hand may have been the Ruins, but it still takes him time to do that. So this is...
Yeah, the Jundek's happy with him wasting his time doing that, but if Matt does deal with the threat, that is how he's going to end the game.
Yep. Guesses what he's going to look to do is put the Batter Skull on top of it. There's Academy Ruins. He's going to look to put the Batter Skull on top of his library. Or another Stoneforge Mystic. That's pretty good from Matt there.
Yeah, he's just gonna. It might be one of those games for the Esper deck where it just gets all its equipment in play, and then any threat it makes, even a Spirit Token, is just massive.
Yeah, I think what Matt's probably looking to do here, especially since Bart looks stuck on land, he's more than likely looking to put his Batter Skull on top of his library, and then activate the relic and make the Batter Skull. But with that Stoneforge Mystic now, he probably doesn't even need to do that.
No, just pick it up end of turn when he has some spare mana, probably next turn, and put it into play, which is quite a good thing to do. He'll have to put it into play in his turn, but it is protecting that Batter Skull from the discard once it's come into his hand.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, he can do it all in one turn as well if he has the mana, because he can use the Academy Ruins to put it on top and the relic to draw a card.
Yeah, definitely, and that will shrink the Tarmogoyf as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy my chances with a 0-1 Tarmogoyf against a Batter Skull, to tell you the truth.
That's one of the interesting things about Deathratch Shaman. It can't actually interact with equipment or artifacts in the bin unless they're creatures. Yep. So he's got no real way of dealing with that Batter Skull once it's in the bin.
So incoming Tarmogoyf again. Matt's going to remove his Spell Pierce from the game. So I think we might have a little bit of a timing thing going on here. Got fingers on the cards going up. Oh, there we go. Matt has targeted himself with the Relic of Progenitus. So the thing is here that if Bart removes the Spell Pierce, then Matt can remove the land, and that shrinks the Tarmogoyf even further at this point.
Yeah. It's like it's all about what we've mentioned before, is giving your opponents a chance to respond. Yeah. I believe Matt didn't give his opponent that much chance to respond at that point because he assumed he wasn't going to do anything, because in Matt's head that wasn't the correct play. Thing is, Bart's got every entitlement to have a think about that himself and decide whether he does want to respond, so Matt really should have waited there.
Yeah. So no, Matt's life total is getting a little bit precarious here.
I'm not sure. He's got a whole 8 life to play with. Remember the old control decks? If he doesn't kill you, then you're well in the game.
Oh, that's during his upkeep. He's putting the Batter Skull back on top, so my guess here is 5th land and Batter Skull will be... Yep.
It's whether we're going to see it in combat as well.
Yeah.
To fight that Tarmogoyf. I mean, if Matt can get it to go an extra couple of turns, this game it's going to be very, very hard for Bart to win.
So the Tarmogoyf has been shrunk at this point to, I believe, a 3-power guy at the moment, is he? I think we might only have sorcery and instant in the graveyard, so he may only be a 2-power guy at this point.
Yeah, we should definitely get a large Tarmogoyf guy who dies for the next time.
Yeah. I'll ask the guys.
Perhaps a furry comedy one.
Well, Bart's got a fetch land there, so there is a possibility we might see Bloodbraid Elf this turn.
That is a possibility. However, I think if he goes to remove his land with the Deathrite Shaman, Matt may not put his Batter Skull into play and just use the relic instead.
Yeah.
And just remove everything from the game to fizzle the Deathrite's mana ability. I mean, inversely, Bart could use his Deathrite's Summon to produce mana and force Matt into that play.
Yeah.
Well, then again, Matt might not be bothered by that. He might be happy that he's doing that, and then he can make the Batter Skull without fear of the creature getting killed, and then untap into a stabilised board position. I wouldn't say he was dominating at that point, but a very stable board position.
Yeah. So 3 mana from Bart and Maelstrom Pulse.
So that kind of forces Matt into acting, really.
Yeah.
That's another thing about legs. If you can force your opponents are doing things when they don't want to, you can get advantage that way.
Yep. And that will also make, I believe... Yeah, I believe the Tarmogoyf will now be big enough to smash through the Batter Skull as well. So
I wouldn't be surprised just to see Matt just slam the Batter Skull in front of it anyway. But it depends what he has in hand at this point. I mean, if he just waits an extra turn, he can just use the Relic and shrink it to 0, and then he's in.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, because with the Relic untapped at the moment, Bart still can't attack with that Tarmogoyf, because Matt will just remove his Stoneforge Mystic and kill the Tarmogoyf.
It's looking like we may get some attacking with Maelstrom Pulse action. Oh no, Bart's put it in the bin.
How big would you say a Maelstrom Pulse would be?
Probably a 3/3. You know, for 3 that blows up a permanent, that'd be an okay card, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too bad for 3 mana. I'd play that. But yeah, Matt has now shrunk the Tarmogoyf, and I'm afraid that oh god, he's put Jitty on his Batter Skull as well. So this has gone south for Bart in a really big way at this point now.
So Matt's been planning this turn for perhaps 3 turns previously.
And now he can actually kill Bart's Tarmogoyf with 1 counter if he chose to.
Yeah, which is not the situation Bart really wants to be, and you expect Tarmogoyf to fare a bit better than that.
And in fact, Matt just kills Bart's Deathrite Shaman. He's not bothered about the Tarmogoyf at this point, it would seem. Liliana of the Veil's going to kill the token, though. And 1 with the Tarmogoyf. Squire Beats coming in.
Yep, Squire in both decks. Just got to figure out which one's more impressive.
And there's Matt's first brainstorm of this match that hasn't been powered up by Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, you've got to be able to draw those filter cards in the Esperblade deck, or it's not that powerful without them.
Always feels to me when you're playing when I've tried to play blue decks in Legacy, so much of it comes down to can you draw Brainstorm, because it just feels like it holds your deck together so much.
It's a very powerful card.
So let's see what Matt's got for us this turn. He's got to put some cards back first. There we go. 2 mana. Another Stoneforge Mystic. And since Matt is looking through his deck, I believe we're going to see the Sword of Feast and Famine here as well. So it is going to be every single equipment in Matt's deck is about to see play.
Once that Stoneforge Mystic gets given all the equipment, it's going to be very tough for Bart to kill it. At having pro green and whatnot.
Oh, just
And
rub-ins.
there's a swords as well.
Rub-ins from Matt there.
It's a pretty good brainstorm from Matt there, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking potentially put the Jitty on the Stoneforge Mystic and cross your fingers a bit, but I think Matt had a slightly better plan there. I think if Bart's play here is go, that's going to be a very sad face on his side of the board. Duress from Bart, so let's see if well, Matt's got Spell Pit. That's not what you want to see. Jace the Mind Sculptor to go with that Sword of Feast and Famine as well. Matt's also got another card in his hand. He's got that Spell Pierce so he can protect from the Liliana.
Yep.
And I think at this point we're probably going to see something completely disgusting about to happen.
That's considering what he's doing.
I think he's considering just strapping the batter skull up to the Stoneforge
It's
Mystic.
probably better to cast the sword, equip the sword, than attack and use the untapped triggers.
Well, they
He's
don't.
not got an untapped trigger for the Liliana. Well, next turn he's in a very, very good shape.
Next turn, I think pretty much all the things are going to happen.
Yep, looks like a pretty powerful turn for Matt then.
Yeah, we'll see if Bart's got any way to interact with him at this point.
I think he's looking for just Abrupt Decay, and then that still doesn't win him the game. It maybe buys him one, maybe two more turns.
Do you think he might have access to Ancient Grudge?
I think if he get it in the sideboard, he'll have brought it in, and that would be a good card.
I mean, it'd only buy him a couple of turns because of the Academy ruins, but...
Yeah, he could grudge the sword, grudge the Batter Skull. Ironically, leaving Jitte on the table is probably his best bet. So let's see what Matt does with this turn.
Definite speed increase from Matt. Attacking with his Jitty and putting the effect on the stack and returning his Batter Skull to hand. Untap phase. Miss triggers on Jitty Matt there, maybe?
Yeah, it's the I win syndrome. It's like in Matt's head, he's already won this game. There's nothing Bart can do. Should never really get into that habit, but I'm sure you just can all poke fun at Matt when you next see him about it.
Yeah. Like, Jitty, so powerful, don't even need to put counters on it.
Yeah, and Bart scoops them up there.
Yep, so Matt Light, despite that little bit of a hiccup on his Jitty, moves to 5-1 at this point. So he may have to play round 7, he may not.
He's probably looking to ID into 90 here.
Can't have a Matt Light match without that. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We will see you in round 7.